I'm Enoch Cheeks, shooting guard at Robert Morris University, and you're listening to the Toole Sheds on Colonial Sports Network.
Welcome back to another episode of the Toole Shed. My name is Ethan Morrison, alongside Tyler Gallo, and today we are going to recap the RMU first sweep ever in the Horizon League against Milwaukee and Green Bay. Tyler, what are you excited for as we move on into the month of February?
I'm excited that this team actually looks like a team now, as opposed to what we saw maybe merely a month ago from today. They played really well in these last two games. They had their bad shooting game against Green Bay, but you know what? They found a way to win, which we wouldn't have said in probably any. If they had a bad shooting game in the early in the season, they probably lose by 20. But this team is a bit different, and they just cleaned the clocks of Milwaukee in that first game, Ethan.
And yeah, I mean, just looking at how they performed over the course of this weekend was just a cohesive unit, is what I've been preaching all year to say if they finally are able to play together as a unit and gel together, they will be able to win ball games,
right?
Either by blowing teams out or by close margins like we saw on Saturday. So we saw, two different mediums or two different angles of, how this team played. We saw on Thursday night, like you said, blowing out a team like Milwaukee, who was supposed to be in the top half of the Horizon League, and just without Patrick Baldwin Jr. was that one guy, once again, turn the clocks back, guys, till November 3rd, when I said one guy is not going to do it. There we go.
Yeah, Ethan, you were all over them this year, saying they're not going to be that good. And it's pretty hard to win a game when you don't have a guy shooting 6 for 6 from 3-point and dropping 26 points on you. RMU, you know who turned that on its head? Khalil Spear came out with 25 of his own, 9 rebounds, and a really just good all-around game together. There was a couple of guys that shot pretty badly in that game, but Michael Green III continues his solid run of scoring, and without Cam Ferris, this team played really well.
Yeah, and as you know, Cam Ferris is out due to health and safety protocols.
Should be back.
Should be back next game. But yeah, let's break down the Milwaukee game as a whole. Like Tyler said, I almost called you Gallo. Can't do that. But like Tyler said, just an overall great performance. Defensively, one of the best games that they've played all year. Looked very well. Held Milwaukee to just 9% from beyond the arc all game. Actually, 8% beyond the arc that whole game. Held DeAndre Golston, who was leading the team in points, to just 3 for 12 shooting. And no points in the first half, too, so that allowed Robert Morris to, extend that lead in the first half. Just some numbers. Khalil Spear, like you said, 25 points, 9 rebounds. Also, Michael Green III put in a 13-point effort, 4 for 8 from the field, 3 for 5 from deep. And rebounding as well, 52 rebounds, a season high. With those rebounds, that season high 52, 16 of them offensive rebounds. And that Cleveland State game, if we're going to rewind back before they got their clocks cleaned against Purdue, after they got their clocks cleaned by Purdue Fort Wayne, rebounding as a whole has taken a step up. Feels so good to be talking about this team in a positive light.
Right. More
than, the first half of the new year of losing games back to back to back. But they were able to get the job done against Milwaukee in a big way, hold Milwaukee's big men to limited amount of points, and, just be able to flow together well as a team.
Well, I think Toole has prepared this team. One thing I've noticed over the year, they found a way to make some of the best scorers on teams be non-factors in games. So that went out of the window against Cleveland State, where they had their 3 guys go off. But against Milwaukee, Golston really was not a factor. Marquez Warwick was really well against Northern Kentucky, but Trayvon Faulkner did not play very well in that game. They had Jalen Pipkins play really well in Purdue Fort Wayne, and Damian Chonky. They held Jared Godfrey off the board. And then Green Bay, Emmanuel Onsong was a ghost. And he dropped 20, I think it was 23 against them the last time they played. So it was a really good week of basketball for RMU. A lot of positivity surrounding the program. A lot of players happy with what happened during the games. Michael Green III was talking, pretty highly of the team. Brandon Stone was pretty happy. Andy Toole was happy about it winning on a stony Saturday. as he said, coming off the court with some vulgarity in there. But it was a good week for Army basketball. All as a whole, the women's basketball team also swept their series. So, And then the last time that happened, I tweeted it out, was March 2nd, 2020. The week of that week, both teams won all 4 of their games.
Mm-hmm. And, as we transition into the month of February, it's crunch time.
It is.
And this is a time where if you're Robert Morris, you can start to make a run to November 3rd again, that top, middle of the pack standings. Like, they could be up in 6th place after, a good week of basketball, which we'll preview coming up. But moving on to the game on Saturday against Green Bay, like I said, 2 different extremes from Thursday to Saturday. This one was a tight one against now Green Bay, who they lost to in Wisconsin in December, the first Horizon League game of the season. They just looked awful and all out of sorts there. Didn't make a field goal in the last 9 minutes of the game there. But different story against the Phoenix at home. 62-60 final there. Tight one in that second half. Tight one actually all game. Green Bay actually led at the end of the half by 1. At the end of the first half with 1. And, overall performance, Michael Green, 21 points. Enoch Cheeks, 11. Khalil Spear, not as dominant against Green Bay on Saturday, but still put together a 9-point performance. Also, Brandon Stone had one of his better games of the year, putting up 11 points in the win. So, Tyler, like I said, tight game, but they were able to get the job done. Probably a sigh of relief for Toole and the whole team as they were finally able to get one of those close games and pick one of those games up.
Yeah, really. They and Michael Green talked about it after the game. It was so nice to finally get that close game out of the way, get that win. They won by 2. We hadn't seen that since, I believe it was, they hadn't won a close game, I don't think all season long. They hadn't won a game that was within a couple of points like that. Really, really good effort, just from the team. And, Brandon Stone played pretty well. He didn't shoot as well he probably would have wanted to, but he got the rebounds. He got the offensive boards. He stuffed, and he did really well. And then how about Enoch Cheeks, a guy that we forgot to mention, double-double in that game, stuffed the stat sheet in that one. Had a really, really good performance out of him. He had a flamboyant dunk where he celebrated in front of the bench. That I think really was the turning point of the game.
Yeah, let's talk about Enoch Cheeks for a second.
Yeah.
Last season as a freshman, he did not get much action whatsoever. And he came off the bench and he was a pretty good defender. Averaged just 4 points last season. 4 points. This season, now he's averaging almost 9. And adding on the defense, that strong defense that he played last year, he's able to put it all together. He's not going to lead the team in points most nights, but he's going to be on that stat sheet. He's going to have a good plus-minus, and he's able to be a key contributor and hit those key shots down the stretch.
He is the Swiss Army knife for this team. You can put him in there and plug him in any situation. He will thrive in it, except when the refs are intentionally fouling him out of the game like they did in Cleveland. But he's a good player, a phenomenal player. His development over the course of this last year has been just a joy to watch. A player that, like you said, he's not going to average 10 points a game. He's not going to get you, he may have a 20-point game every once in a while where everything's working, but he's going to go out there, he's going to gut it out, he's going to get you steals, he's going to get you blocks, and more importantly, he's going to rebound the heck out of the ball. And a guy that I think is, 6'5", 6'3", around there?
Yeah, 6'3".
6'3", a guy, he plays, as I think Andy Toole said, he plays a lot bigger than he is. Mm-hmm. And he's a very important, integral part of this roster.
Yeah, and, he's been healthy all year. We've seen sophomore guard Cam Ferris. He hasn't been healthy all year. So it's nice to see, Enoch kind of come into his own and, be able to break out in the absence of Ferris and also, in the absence of some other players that have left the program earlier. Because when you look at it, if, Rasheem Dunn and Farron Flavors did not leave the program, Enoch wouldn't have been able to get that big jump in minutes. But, you see him this year finally able to, be in a lot of games, be in a lot of tight games, be in it when it matters, and he's able to produce at a high level. And also, you talk about rebounding. How about the rebounding over the past several games? How about being so much more aggressive than what we saw earlier on in the year, especially against Cleveland State when Cleo Spear was trying to put them back, even against Milwaukee and Green Bay, who have a little bit of size on their team, but not as big as Green Bay, or not as big as Cleveland State, but they're able to be a lot more aggressive on that end of the floor, and I think that's just something Andy Toole has been looking for all season long.
They've really found their stride in terms of rebounding, which is really important for this team. We talked about it in the past. They had guys that weren't really aggressive for the rebounding. They weren't really fighting for them, and now we see Khalil doing it. We see Justin Winston checking in and doing that. That's what his sort of role has become this year, is the guy that fights for those rebounds. And then Enoch does it really, really well. And even Michael Green will get in there a couple with rebounds. But yeah, Stone and Matt Mayers, who Mayers has sort of become, I guess, almost second fiddle in the offense. A guy that, ever since that St. Francis game, he's sort of fallen off a little bit. But he'll still get your rebounds, and he's still a big body to have out there on the court. Again, this is a talented team, and you see the core is there. You see guys that, we don't know, and we have no idea if Jerron Williams or Khalil Spear will come back next year. But we do know is that this team is playing for each other, and this team is really built around that core.
Yeah, and that's something that you love to see heading into the final month of the regular season. And speaking of final month, the Colonials, they go on the road to open up the final month of the regular season. They go to Chicago for their last rodeo with UIC.
Yep.
As UIC announced last week, correct? Yes, last week. I got that right. That they are moving to the Missouri Valley Conference. Effective
in July.
There we go. Effective in July. They take on UIC on Thursday in Chi-Town. 8 o'clock. Winnable game for Robert Morris. This is a stretch. These next two games are a stretch of you have to win. These are must wins. They're not must wins, but they are must wins. They're bottom teams of the conference, and you still have two more games against them in your home gym in the coming weeks.
That's right, and we saw them sort of where their season unraveled last year was when they went to Chicago, and they had a bad game in overtime. They went to overtime. They fell apart, and that was really the issue with them. But this is probably, I don't mean to say this like right now, but this is probably their most important game of the season, this UIC game. Because if they win them, they vault over them in conference, and then they go to Indy and play IUPUI, who's the last ranked team in the net rankings, who has not won a single game all year, a game that they should win, a game that they will be favored. We're entering into a stretch of games for the rest of the season, as our good friend Tristan Friedman said. They're going to be favored in most of the remaining games except for Oakland and Wright State, probably. And then they'll be close for Northern Kentucky, who they beat. But if they go on the road, they've had their troubles on the road this season, and that's been their biggest issue. If they can scratch out a couple of wins on the road, huge for the team.
Yeah, you're just hoping this series kind of this two game road series really helps them swing the pendulum in the right direction on the road. Just looking at some leaders for UIC, Demario Franklin, 18 points per game he's averaging, 7.1 rebounds per game. So, like Tyler, you said, if they're able to neutralize that top scorer, they're going to have a lot of success. And, for UIC, they lost Maurice Commander to the portal. He didn't play.
By the way, has been in contact with RMU.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he has been.
Thank you for that little nugget. But he hasn't played much this season, right. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think he played at all this year.
No. Just, being able to neutralize Franklin, I think that's going to be huge for Robert Morris. He's a 6'3" guard, so if you're able to keep playing defensively well, if you're able to play defensively and, be able to thwart Franklin, they're going to be in good shape against UIC. He also leads the team in rebounding as well. And, Robert Morris needs that strong production from Spear. Also, with Ferris back, you could hope he returns to his normal form of being able to spot up some shots and being able to be consistently well, shooting the ball from the outside. They'll be in great shape, and, complimenting Michael Green III, if he continues to be consistent as well, they're going to be in great shape.
They will be, and they could maybe steal an 8th spot in the conference rankings, which is important. Right now, I believe that's held by Milwaukee, right? Or that's held by somebody, and Milwaukee is currently in a free fall right now, and Patrick Baldwin Sr. is no longer going to be their coach at the end of the year. We can probably put that in writing right now because he has just lost the team. And, I think that if RMU continues to play well over the stretch, they can potentially host a playoff game. I was a little bit iffy on it last week, and then they came in and took those 2 games, and now I think they can make a charge to that.
In January or in December, did you ever think we would be talking about Robert Morris men's basketball hosting a playoff game? I don't think so.
Nope.
And now, like I said, you keep moving momentum. And then Saturday, like you said, last team in the net, last team in the Ken Palm, IUPUI. 0-8 in conference. They've tried to schedule games, non-conference games that they could win. They got canceled because of COVID. But currently, IUPUI 1-17 on the season overall, 0-8 in conference play. BJ Maxwell's, I think, their only Division I recruit. I think I remember seeing that somewhere that they've only got one guy on the roster that's had Division I experience prior to this season. So BJ Maxwell, 11 points per game, also leads the team in rebounds with 4 a game. Currently only averaging 50.3 points per game, allowing 67. So Robert Morris got a noon tip on Saturday, their earliest of the season. So got to wake up early, got to get the job done on the road before you head back home.
Grill some eggs up, come down, and have a nice luncheon as we watch IUPUI here. It's going to be these 2 games are, again, crucial. They get these 2 wins. They are looking primed for the remainder of the season. Now, we know they're probably going to lose at Wright State because Wright State's going to have all their guys back, unlike last time. But they did play them once against Basili and Holden, only lost by 1. A game they could have won, by the way. A lot of winnable games. Oakland is Oakland. They're going to come here and play pretty well, I think. And then Northern Kentucky, it's a stretch of games where it sort of favors RMU that they had. Like we talked about this, I believe, in our first episode. The early portion of the schedule is going to be a gauntlet. And then they finally get to the games where they can confidently say, I think we're going to play well in these ones.
And, you can't discount Detroit Mercy either. They
Nope.
got them at home next Wednesday. So that's also a game where it's a toss-up. So you don't really know how that's going to turn. Anthony Davis has been amazing for Detroit Mercy all year and throughout his 5 years.
Yeah, Antoine Davis dropped
with
46.
The Titans. So, but that's also a winnable game at home, and you never know if that road game is going to get rescheduled from when it was canceled in January. So it's all up on the table. Robert Morris can't control his own destiny in this last month of the season. But before we wrap this episode up, Tyler, anything else you would like to add as we move forward here?
It's a good time to be an RMU Colonial fan, that's for sure. And I don't know how many students are actually going to listen to this, but when they're at home, definitely come out and watch because this is a team that's going to fight hard for all the points, fight hard to score, fight hard for the students, and they thrive off of that energy in the stands. I mean, we saw great energy. Saw a lot of people in the student section of the Milwaukee game, and then pretty typical for Saturday, a little bit less. But still, come watch this team. This team is a lot of fun to watch. Even if they're not winning, you know how they win? You come out and support.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just some other news and notes on the recruiting trail. 3-star guard TJ Wainwright made his official visit to Robert Morris. We spoke to him about the recruiting process for him this far and his plans moving forward and his timetable as to when he will make his official decision, which you will have to find out in an article that we are tag teaming on, and that will be up in the next couple of days, so stay tuned for that. Well, that will do it for this episode of The Toole Shed. For Tyler Gallo, I'm Ethan Morrison. We will see you next time.